All right, secret project number 2. I'm rocking my Hoyd merch from the Hoyd box, and look what just came in the mail just the other day. Perfect timing for today's video. That's right, secret project number 1. Let's put it on the bookshelf here real quick.
All right, I haven't opened it yet. I just sliced this bad boy open. See what we got. Creating our worlds to inspire yours. Beautiful, love it. All right, let's see. Oh, a story doesn't live until it is imagined in someone's mind. Wit. That's beautiful. And we got a, is this Vin? We got a Vin pin. Love it, love my Vin pin. And then we'll just not look at that right now because I want to be surprised. Oh, hello. What do we got here? We got the book, obviously, but what are these little gifts and trinkets? Okay, looks like we got a tress. I'm guessing this is a sticker. Doesn't feel like a magnet. Yeah, we got a tress sticker. That is gorgeous. Look at that. Ooh, love that. And then a bookmark. Oh, man, I would have loved to have read this book on time. With this fancy bookmark and this beautiful copy of the book. Very nice. Great artist. And we got another one of these Hoyd decals, I guess. Oh, that's cool. Oh, nice. We got like the solar system. Looks like we got some room to go here. It looks like the dragon in the pictures I've seen. I'll show that somewhere in this video. But yeah, this is nice. Beautiful. I guess a bigger bookmark, or I don't know what this is, but I like it. Wait, what does it say it is? Epic bookmark. Is that what it is? Yeah, okay, sparkly bookmark and epic bookmark. Oh, it's a big bookmark. I'll give you that. All right, here we go. I have not laid my hands on the physical copy yet. Let's see if I can open this with one hand without breaking anything. Okay.
Just a quick look at the book in all its glory. Ooh, baby. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Nothing on the actual page fringes, okay. But yeah, I mean, I love that that binding there. That's great. That's beautiful. I can't wait to see the colors at work. I know that they've been using 2 or 3 different colors. Grab a. There we go. Okay. After all this waiting and after having already read the book, it's actually kind of like daunting to hold it. It's like I'm kind of scared, kind of nervous. All right. Well, I got my Cosmere shelf here in an order, in a order. it's in an order. I don't know what order it's in, but it's there. But yeah, cool. I got the leather bound of Warbreaker, and now a nice. I think this is leather bound for the tress. Very beautiful. Good collection so far. I'm proud of it, and I look forward to improving it in the future. But yeah, anyways, on with the video. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Sandbox. We are continuing on with the Year of Sanderson with secret project number 2, which is a secret no more, the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. Man, what a mouthful. And as with Tress, this will be a spoiler-free review, as I know many people are waiting for their physical copies before they pick up the book and actually start reading, and the mass market release is still a few months away. However, that's enough of an introduction. Let's get into the review. Starting off with the writing component, I definitely think this is a step down from not just secret project number 1, Tress of the Emerald Sea, but unfortunately also from most of Sanderson's other novels that operate within the same genre and target a similar audience. Now, I don't think that Brando Sando meant for this one to come off or sound like a YA, especially when you have Michael Kramer and Kate Redding attached to do your audiobook, but alas, the tone, the style, and the overall structure of the book felt very YA to me, and even a tad weaker than other YAs that Sanderson has put out, such as Skyward. Sanderson does speak a bit on this in this book's postscript, but don't worry, there's no spoilers for any part of the story here. But at first, the author of the Frugal Wizard's Handbook, Cecil G. Bagsworth, a character that Sanderson shares with his good friend Dan Wells as they both came up with him together in college, had a much bigger role to play in the story, serving as an Indiana Jones type character. His snippets from the handbook were to provide some fun levity to an otherwise grittier and drearier story, but he decided it was a bit too close to Harry Potter, and so he shelved the book until the story evolved into what it is now. And honestly, I think that decision hurt the book more than it helped. They're probably two completely different stories, but the one with Cecil G. Bagsworth heavily involved just sounds much more enticing to me than the one we actually got. Which is not to say it's a bad novel by any means, and we'll get into that later, but purely speaking in terms of the style and the voice behind the words, this one just feels weaker. I feel like the Indiana Jones voice, coupled with maybe 100 more pages to allow certain plot points to breathe a bit more, would have really helped the book. It definitely would have made the ending hit a lot harder and the emotion have a much stronger impact, as was clearly intended. The current narrator's voice and lack of conviction makes it hard to take seriously at times, especially if you're reading the book rather than listening, as you don't have Kramer's voice to steer you in that desired direction. Like, the book's tone just feels conflicted. It doesn't quite know what it wants to be fully. You know, on one hand, it wants to be this fun, lighthearted adventure, and on the other hand, it wants you to take it seriously at desired moments, you know? But at a certain point in the book, it's like, hey, book, how much do you want me to take you seriously? And it's just kind of feels like it's saying, I don't know, always? You can tell this book wanted to be something special. It wanted to be more on both a personal level and just in general, but its execution just didn't quite stick the landing. Now, the story's pacing is quite phenomenal. There's little, if any, fluff or filler, and the story moves at a great pace from one side quest or part of the main mission to the next. And the themes at play were adequate as well, touching on courage and faith and our own self-image. However, what really keeps this entire section down for me is the constant teetering back and forth within our main character's mindset of, oh boy, I'm useless, I'm a coward, to, no, not anymore, I can be a hero. Almost every chapter after a certain point within the story has this inner dialogue, and yes, it's consistent and it's focused, but my god, does it get old quick. So again, taking out one or two of those inner conversations or trains of thought and adding in another 100 pages or so of actual plot, at least on the ebook, which is about 600 pages on my settings, definitely would have benefited the overall health of this book, but that's just one man's opinion. Now, moving on to the story, what is the book actually about? Well, some very light spoilers ahead on the premise, but this book is a near-perfect marriage between the Bourne Identity and Rick and Morty, but with a voice very, very similar to Hoyt's. I'm not sure in which order Sanderson wrote all of these 4 secret novels, however, I would not be surprised to hear that Tress and Frugal Wizard were written very closely together or maybe even in tandem. The jokes, the wit, the overall style of storytelling is quite similar to Hoyd's, but while Tress feels more enchanting, this one comes off as more dreary and mystical. The story centers around a man who wakes up in medieval England after a crashed landing of sorts. Again, no spoilers. To find his memory wiped and a singed book in his hands that is missing pages with some pretty important information on them. And as his memories slowly return to him, he must figure out who he was, who he really is, and who he wants to be, and potentially stop a crime boss from taking over this new and different world. Now, to me, that's a perfect premise. That immediately sold me on this book and had me super excited to pick it up. Of the 4 books that they announced with that Kickstarter, it was this one and the 4th one, The Sunlit Man, that I was most anticipating. However, unfortunately, the highly streamlined plot in this book is not executed as I had originally hoped, and compared to all of Sanderson's other works that I've read, which is a fair amount, I think this might be the weakest in terms of plot alone. It is very simple, quite generic even. It's highly repetitive and very predictable at times. It still has some fantastic moments in there, as well as some great quotable lines that I will certainly be using, but for me, this is not a real memorable story. In fact, I'm feeling a little bit like Jason Bourne himself right now. In terms of the stake and action, they're both average in my view. The stakes are decent enough and they'll suffice for you so long as you care about at least one of the three main characters. Personally, the one that I was most invested in was not the main character and narrator, but we'll get into that a bit more in the next section. However, I will say that when the main character has basically given up on himself and is fine taking himself out at every turn to save someone and finally do a little bit of good, it doesn't exactly make me want to root for the guy. And as for the action, again, it's quite generic and very forgettable. It lacks a certain level of detail that I've become accustomed to as a Sanderson fan, which just made it feel all the more bland. But let's move on to the character component, the make or break section of these reviews, because I, like many people, need good characters to help me sink my teeth into a good story. And yeah, there are three main characters that go on this journey in the book. Our main guy from another world of sorts, and two locals, one man and one girl. And in all honesty, the girl was my favorite. Her background wasn't nearly as fleshed out as I would have liked, but even so, her motivations, her decisions, her story was the most compelling thing in this book for me. The other local also carried a fair amount of weight, but in truth, he didn't get a whole ton of focus. Like, even when he's in the scene, he still kind of feels like he's off screen, you know? Like, you can hear him, you know, and you see glimpses of him now and then, but the story is primarily focused on our main guy and this girl. I'm redacting their names to stick to that spoiler-free promise. Plus, their names are pretty cool, and they serve a purpose in the story in a way, so I'm not gonna rob that from you. Now, as for the villains, the main villain we get is a crime boss of sorts who is, again, super generic and not really that menacing. He doesn't press on any of the stakes for me, which leaves the villain component dependent on the more minor characters that are in the story. And there are a fair few. Heck, even the main character feels like his own worst enemy. Now, I will say that the main character does have a quirk that I really enjoyed, even if it was a little bit odd. He likes to review things. I mean, can you imagine reviewing things? What a dork. But again, in all seriousness, the characters in this book just don't feel as strong as Sanderson at his best. It's certainly not him at his A game, and maybe not even at his B game. But that said, the relationships made and the arcs at play have some pretty cool components to them. There are even some twists that can surprise you, but I wouldn't classify them as genius or unpredictable. They're there and they serve a purpose to push our characters, and that's what I like about them. Now, I will say that there is an unexpected and some might say rushed romance within this story. I rather enjoyed it, but I will agree that it can feel like it comes out of left field and feels a bit forced in its beginning, but I enjoyed it. It gets better. Again, the book is not bad, and Sanderson at his worst is still better than most fantasy authors at their best, in my opinion, especially when you considered how crowded the market has become. But yeah, this doesn't strike me as a home run in any of these components so far, but we've got one more component to look at: the setting. And in terms of the physical landscape that our characters must traverse and the magic and technology at play, as this is a sci-fi fantasy hybrid, they're okay. It's a familiar world with the fantasy genre that is equipped with some modern twists on Norse mythology, so I can see a lot of people really enjoying this world, but at face value, it's nothing extraordinary. It's just a base hit for a short novel. The true ingenuity of this world is the originality of the plot for me, and how interwoven the history and religion of this world is with its actual plot. It drives a lot of the characters' motivations and ambitions, it influences their decisions, and it takes a big role in their character arcs within the story, so I really enjoyed that aspect. At the end of the day, this is a soft adventure that has some amazing ideas that just weren't executed to the standard that Sanderson has prepared his fans to expect from him. Maybe with another year and more pages, it could have been something more memorable for me, but as it stands, it's a quick read with fun components and good lessons to take. It just doesn't have enough legs to stand on that would make me want to pick this one up for a second time as soon as I would like to. And so it earns a 6.5 from me. I hope if Sanderson in the future decides to tell a similar story now that he's set up the basis for this setting and the sci-fi mechanisms at play within this world, I hope that it involves Cecil G. Bagsworth in some capacity, and that Sanderson takes the risk to tell a more serious story with more serious and higher stakes. I still think this one is worth reading. A 6.5 is still above average. I would consider a 5 to be middle of the pack average. So this one is still, you know, a bit better than what you're going to find considering how short of a novel it is. But if you're behind on the Cosmere and still need to catch up, I would prioritize the Cosmere before little base hits like this one within Sanderson's arsenal. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm taking a big risk here by critiquing Sanderson and being a little bit more negative, a little bit more harsh, because I do think we need to nitpick him every now and then, as much praise as he deserves. But let me know if you agree with my thoughts down in the comments below. What did you think of this book? And are you looking forward to the last 2 secret projects that we have coming this year, as well as the finale book to the Skyward series, Defiant? But as for now, that's it from me. As always, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you all next time.